All right, hey everybody, it's Barney Quincy, the notorious Canadian here from Ontario who has the most amazing hair, as you guys are going to find out. Both of the other presenters that I'm going to be bringing on are super jealous because I know I have the best hair here. But this is really cool. I'm very excited because, for many reasons. One, meaning that we're pretty much wrapping things up here. You know, today is technically day 10, so that's usually the end. But I always like to say, as a bit of a joke, it's the end of the beginning or the beginning of the end. It's kind of the same thing. And what I mean by that is that now we've extended, if you're tuning in live, the encore access for all of the free training that we've been putting together for you guys all year long. And I'm actually just going to pull this up here for a second because Becky left a comment before we even went live and said, yes, with family for the past week, and Thanksgiving festivities, and then sales upon sales, so Black Friday, Cyber Monday. It's been very busy, and so we knew that in advance. That's why we wanted to extend the encore access, and it's pretty neat because you have until Wednesday night, especially for those of you with us live. If you're watching this as a replay, of course, this might not be applicable, but Wednesday night, November the 28th, so tomorrow is Tuesday, and then Wednesday the 28th. So it's pretty neat. So if you missed anything, then you can tune in. And that means that everything, all 10 days are open. Before we get rolling here, is you can go to, when you get logged in, you can go to the Read Me First page when you get logged into the members area, and then you go to AWS 2018, and then you'll see Read Me First. And on there, you're going to see the schedule. And then if you just print that off, I find it's helpful for me. I'm a total techie person in the digital world, but I also do like paper. To some degree, and it's nice being able to see this, and then you can look through and say, okay, which ones did I miss on this day, and I want to make sure I go back. Well, what day was it on? It's just a little bit easier to get the best bang for your buck. So I'm excited because of that, the encore, and that this is really an invitation for you guys who are considering to join us as a member of VIP or Platinum. This is your invitation to do so because we have an enrollment open, which I'm going to get into later. But that's open until December 2nd or December the 3rd. But the third reason why I'm excited is because we have another guy, a dude that's on here as a presenter. I don't know if Peter would call himself a dude, but Peter Jeffs is from the UK, and he was introduced to us as a first-time presenter by the other presenter who's here waiting in the lobby, Petra Christensen from Colorado. I believe she's still in Colorado right now. So we have 3 countries representing tonight. We have Ontario, Canada, okay, just Canada, and then the US, and then the UK. So it's really exciting. Now, Peter, are you ready to rock there?
Yes, I am.
All right, I'm gonna hit the magic button. Here he is. Look at, see, if you guys were concerned, now you know I tell the truth all the time. I thought I had the best hairdo. I love it. So I saw the picture of Peter first time I saw you when Jamie, my assistant, she's like, yeah, she's like this cool presenter that Petra introduced to us from the UK. And as soon as I saw your picture, I got a really big smile on my face, and I didn't even need to talk to you to know that I knew we were going to get along very well. So welcome, and thank you for taking the time, because in the UK, it's 10 o'clock there right now, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So for those that are watching this live and in the future, I'd love for you to just kind of give us a brief overview about like who you are, your background, and what you do, because some people may have never watched your presentation and they might have no idea what it is that you do, and I think it's so unique. So just give us like your 60 to 90 second summary of who Peter Jeffs is, and don't feel like crazy pressure on the time. It's just we want to get into some of the questions.
Okay, so I am a kinesiologist. I'll explain what that means. I'm a kinesiologist who works with horses. Right at the beginning, I actually studied plant science, studied botany, Durham in the UK, and then I studied genetics and evolution and molecular biology at Cambridge for my PhD. So I have a really solid, hardcore science training. I worked in science for about 10 years, and then traveled, went to live in France, did other things, explored other talents. And then gradually in my late 40s, I started to become more and more interested in healing. I was interested in Barbara Brennan's work, Hands of Light. I just found that book so amazing. Read it in French the first time, couldn't believe it. I just thought it was wonderful. And that took me into full training as a Reiki master. And that was my first exposure to energy work. As soon as I had received my first Reiki treatment, I knew that I wanted to train in Reiki, and so I took the full training. I use Reiki all the time, every day. It's part of my practice. Um, I left France in 2012, came back to the UK, and through a kind of strange and wonderful chain of events, I discovered this discipline called kinesiology. And so I made some inquiries and basically took a first, what they call a foundation course. And then followed on with a full diploma, because this was something that I found absolutely amazing. What for me in my own personal story is amazing is that, like, as I said, I had a really hardcore science training. I spent time sequencing DNA for my PhD thesis, and so it wasn't a kind of holistic environment. But even back then, I knew that I knew that everything was connected, and I couldn't find the way through that as a graduate student, and that probably led me to give up traditional hardcore science in the end, and took me to explore other things. And it's now when I discover kinesiology that I realized, I found the missing link. I found the thing that I kind of intuited, but there it was. And that's why I stayed through my kinesiology training to take my diploma. And that's really how I came to be doing what I now do. Now, very briefly, the horse dimension. That comes in simply. That started as could have been an accident. Taking one of my case studies to work with a lovely horse called Charlie, who belonged to a close friend of mine, and that case study, I was taking my tools as a kinesiologist into a yard, into a stable for the first time. And that was another kind of huge click. I just knew that that's where I wanted to be. I didn't want to be in a therapy room, didn't want to be in a clinic. I just wanted to be outside in the yard working with the horses. And so that's kind of the other part of my story. It's kind of been, a series of revelations to me. And that's what I'm doing today, and it's a really, really fantastic thing. So that's where I am. I hope that gives you some idea of how I come to be doing what I do.
Yeah, for sure. I just think it was great because it's always awesome for me to hear the stories, because I get to have the opportunity to get to know all of our presenters, obviously, like you, fairly well. And I haven't had the chance for you with you yet. And I just think it's unique. You and I had a conversation, I think it was last week, just to kind of touch base. And you were sharing how you're actually working on a herd of horses right now, where your sole focus is the bigger picture, or the the greater good of like working with all of them, and not just like a come in, there's a problem, you fix it, and then you're back out somewhere else again. This is like a longer term, or relatively speaking, kind of project. And so could you tell us a little bit more about that? Because I don't think that that's something that is, I could be totally mistaken, but I don't think that that's something that's necessarily common practice right now.
I think, again, as I was moving into this kind of work, I initially believed that I would be working perhaps more as a vet or as a farrier, that kind of thing, where you're called by an owner to come in to work on a specific issue for a specific horse. And in fact, the way things have evolved, and my first experience, my first real equine experience was sitting on the moors in Somerset in the Quantocks with the wild horses. And so my first experience, in this part of my life, was very much associated with the herd. And in fact, since I've started working, I have always been working with herds. And so very quickly, this became a sort of way of not only working, but a way of seeing the whole kinesiology project as being, one becomes a kind of, human member of the herd. And there is a real sense of accompaniment. So when things come up, then one can feel that. You can feel what's going on. You can see things. You can see. The horses are telling us things. They're showing us things, and that is that can be an invitation to then take things further, and begin the actual some actual kinesiology, or some healing work. And for me personally, working with the herd, it's the best thing. I love it. I love having that, being in the presence of that sea of energy. And, it's just a fantastic place to be. So to be there regularly with them and see, and feeling how they are and what's going on, is just great. And that's the way I want my practice to develop. That's the way it's happening. And I feel invited. I feel invited by the herd to do this work with them. So it's a two-way thing, and that's very, very special to me. It's a two-way thing.
Yeah, because you're not going to just show up and say, "Hey guys, I'm," to the horse. This is me having my little funny conversation, being like, "Hey guys, I'm the dude, and I'm going to take care of you guys all and fix all your problems, and whether you like it or not, I'm here." It really is as much as it's a give, it's a take. And it sounds like, at least with becoming a part of them, to be able to learn and understand and interpret what you're seeing. And I think that's where this is one of the questions I have for you is, for somebody who's not, they're passionate about horses. They have a horse, maybe they have their horse boarded somewhere, and they don't have, they're in the city and they can't be with their horse all the time. What are some kind of practical tips that you can give them from your experience? Because I know that the challenge is that you have such an extensive background and detailed, unique perspective, which is so cool. And I think that that's where you can help give some insight to people who are wondering about some little things that they can put into practice.
Well, one of the stories that I really love comes from an American Indian called Gawani Ponyboy. His book, I think it's called Horse Follow Closely. And he says, that when he encounters a new horse, comes to him to live with him, first night he's in the stable with that horse. And there's that process of bonding, which takes the time it takes. It's a beautiful process. And I think that, in this sort of longer term work, that is for me the key, the bonding that takes place. So for first thing, for someone who has their horse is stabled, is in a yard, spending as much time as you can together, I would say, is essential. And I would also say it's not about riding time or hacking out time. It's about presence. And that, certainly from the way I'm working, there is hanging out time. That's what we do most of. And that is such an important thing. I think after that, I mean, for people who are riding,
Yeah.
then I would say balance yourself. Because if your energy system is not balanced, and the first thing that your horse is going to notice is when when you mount is whoa, that's that the horse is gonna feel, your horse is gonna, assess, understand, know exactly where you are. If you're not grounded, your root chakra is, you're saddled, and the horse is going to feel that lack of grounding.
Hmm.
So, I mean, things that I would say, and I mean, I address this to, for example, to someone who is riding. I mean, great thing to do is drink half a pint of water before you even think about riding, because that water is going to work on all your energy circuits. It's the intracellular communication. One of the problems that we find most commonly when we work in kinesiology is that people are dehydrated.
Hmm.
So a good hydration, I mean, horses, they drink, and they are so well hydrated. And their human companions aren't always so well hydrated. Horse is going to pick that up straight away.
Well,
So
when you said drink a pint and then it cut out for a second, I didn't know you just said drink a pint, and I thought,
yeah,
well, maybe thinking I'll just go
drink a pint of water or a half pint of water. Make sure that you're hydrated.
right. Of
Yeah.
course, that makes sense, and I think that it's just so cool to talk through some of this stuff, because I think that, and at least I just relate this to my experience, but I know many of you watching, this might seem really straightforward, but I know we hear this a lot through our Facebook page, questions of people wondering about concerns or anything, and it's just unique about the Animal Wellness Summit in general, with having a collection of some of the best minds in their own regard, uh, as what you're sharing. It makes so much sense. Like the root chakra, I never thought about that before. You're sitting, and then the root chakra is directly, like, basically is connected to the horse when you sit on the saddle, or if you're riding bareback. And I never thought about that. I guess I think I've mentioned this before, and to another presenter that we were talking, it might have been even Petra, but have you watched the movie Avatar?
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. It's
So,
one of my favorite films.
yeah, I went back the next day and watched it because I just thought it was so cool.
Yeah.
And that, what I'm reminded of when you were talking about connecting with the horse, was the metaphor, like the example of when, I forget, it was Avi, I think his name was in Avatar. I think his name was Avi, and he's connecting to whatever animal as close as it is to a horse, and where he takes his braided hair and actually like connects in, and which I think is was it James Cameron that made that movie?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that I think that it was his way of intelligently communicating how we're connected to other animals and beings in our lives. We just don't, for the most part, when we don't see that physical connection, it can be easily, perceived as we're not connected, right?
Mm. Yeah, and obviously, I mean, for experienced equestrians, I mean, they are riding with their minds more than their bodies. The connection with their horses is seamless. But by working on our own energy, we're also we're making things, we're making the connection, we're doing our part of the work. And that is, I think that's that's a good place to start. The more body work that one does, the better. Hello. I don't know if you can hear me. I can't. Okay.
Yes, I, I had to close the window and muted myself before.
Okay.
Not to unmute myself. So,
Hmm.
what I was going to ask you, could you elaborate a little bit more on the body work? I know that what you do as a kinesiologist with the horses, it's quite, like, me knowing basic levels of kinesiology, especially for humans. But I found that so interesting, that subject, because I was in corrective exercise as a holistic lifestyle coach, and just looking at the body and seeing the length tension relationships in the muscles and seeing what needs to be tightened and shortened and what needs to be lengthened and or stretched, which is the basics. But for those of us out there that don't have that background, can you explain a little bit more about when you're referring to body work? Just give us a couple kind of examples.
Yeah, I'm
therapy.
For the kinesiologist, then the work that we do, as I explained in the video, was to approach someone through what we call a wheel balance, which looks at the different meridians and the different energy circuits, and we look to see whether they're balanced. And we do that by testing appropriate muscles, and we see whether or not those muscles are switching on and off correctly. We have a way of testing whether the muscle is switched on and switched off. And the idea is that those muscles should be switching on and off when we ask them to. So very simply put, in kinesiology, we work with 4 domains: structural, nutritional, emotional, and energetic. And so, by this, a good example, for example, nutritional work, we'd be looking, for example, balance of minerals, balance of vitamins, things like that. So the person is not, so the person is balanced, nutritionally. I mean, that's something that the horse will pick up. Emotional balancing. We work with the Bach flowers. So again, it's doing your inner work, is, balancing you as a person, that again, your horse is going to pick up. So, any work that you're doing with your emotional circuits, anything that you can do to balance those, and this is the work that you would do with a kinesiologist, will again bring you more into alignment with your horse. After that, the energy side, to do with chakras and meridians. So again, there are things like Kundalini yoga. There's a lot of work that you can do on the body to balance your chakras. That is helpful. And then structural work is more the domain of the osteopath or chiropractor. But again, regular visits, bringing yourself into balance. And all these things, for you, you're, the horse's companion. The more that you are balanced, the more your relationship is going to flow. I had a thing, which was just so beautiful to show this, that I was working with an owner and her horse. We were actually looking more at sugar balance, but we were doing some basic testing, and we were looking initially at the stomach circuits. And so, in the kinesiology, we have this way of switching muscles off through what the Chinese call sedation points. So these are points on a meridian. When you touch them, that will switch off the corresponding muscle. So I am checking the horse's companion, and I'm checking her muscle circuit, and then I'm checking the sedation point on the stomach meridian, which switches her muscle off. So that's fine. So then what we do is we connect her to her horse. So she simply lays her hand on her horse, and then I test the other arm, again, same muscle on the other side, and I look to see how that muscle is, behaving. So the muscle in this case was testing strong. So no apparent imbalance in the muscle circuit. Now, with the human, the horse's companion, I would touch her stomach sedation point in order to test that muscle. What I then did while she was connected with her horse was to touch the corresponding point on the horse's stomach meridian on the hind leg, and that switched her muscle off. In other words, I could have used her sedation point. I can use the horse's. When she's connected with her horse, the energy is flowing between them, and they're functioning as one. And that was just such a beautiful demonstration. So, I just bent down to the hoof on the hind leg, touch that point, retest the horse's companion, and then her muscle switches off. And that symmetry in the energy between horse and human, I mean, that just, I just think that is fantastic. And it just shows how subtle are the energy circuits. And it also says to me, which comes back to your previous question, how much the more one is in tune and in balance with oneself, the better it's going to be. I'm talking to riders now, for your riding experience, because your horse is picking up everything. So, that's why I do, when I am visiting someone with their horse, I mean, that's why I like to do a lot of work with them first, so that all their, their nutrition is balanced, so that, chakras are open, that the meridians are flushed, and the energy is flowing in the correct directions. And then when we've done that work, we can then move on and connect them to their horse. And then we can do things as, for example, the injury recall technique that we did, that I showed in the video with Nicola and George. We can then go in and connect the human to the horse, and then begin that sort of kinesiology in partnership, which we call surrogating.
Yeah, no, that's great. I didn't want to cut you off there. I was just going to ask the question that you said, when you go to work with or on a horse, did I hear you say correctly that you start with the owner or the?
So if the owner is going to surrogate, that is to say, we're going to work through that person, then I work with that person before we start with the horse, because they have to be balanced. So right. I test, if we're, looking at sugars or digestion or something like that, then I'll look at the appropriate circuits in that person and make sure that he or she is balanced, and that their muscles are switching on and off correctly. Then when we connect them with their horse, any change in their muscle balance indicates a change, indicates the, how the horse is responding. And we will then do the balancing, and we can do the correction on the person while he or she is connected to the horse. And the horse will pick that up. We don't have to do the muscle testing on the horse. We don't do the manipulation like that. In the surrogate method, we just work simply through the connection. And so that's most often with the horse's owner, or with the horse's keepers.
Wow. It could just be me, but I find that so fascinating. Because I don't know if that's actually a common approach, is it?
Well, one of the things that I've learned through the Animal Wellness Summit this year is that there are a lot of great kinesiologists working in the States. And in the US, in America, this seems to be, there are many more people interested, and there are many people who are open to this. I only know at this time of one practicing equine kinesiologist who works in Ireland. It's not common in this country. So, I'm very grateful to the summit to actually, to be able to connect with like-minded people who've been doing. I met some absolutely amazing people who are doing fantastic work, who've been doing this for many years. So it's a real pleasure and blessing for me to be able to connect with these people, because we've got a, very, very common interest, and it's great to be able to exchange. So thank you for that. That's
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, I think it's, it's really cool. Thanks for acknowledging that. And that's really that I always like to remind everybody as part of the summit that it's not about you as in Peter or the person watching. It's not about me as in Barney, the host and the organizer. It's not about any of us. It's about all of us together. And I think that's what's so cool, because they're the things that need to be shared of value with people who care. Many of you who are on here live and will probably share. I know Mary Lee just had said, tag somebody and said, Carol, you might want to check this out. Is that just go and do that, because there's people that I know that are going to watch this, that it's literally going to transform your perspective and how you look at working with your horses. Because I mean, when I grew up on a farm, and my sister had 2 horses, and I was never I always thought they were like cool, but I wasn't really. I was into dirt bikes and my dog Skippy and four wheelers and stuff more than I was the horses. But I loved the way they smelled and loved watching them. And I just think it's so fascinating. And I'm totally just coming from my perspective in the sense that I don't think that's a common approach, but it makes sense because again, it's as an analogy in conditioning, if this makes sense. From a golf biomechanics standpoint, I've studied in golf to train people how to have their bodies balanced. And a lot of golfers will think, well, I'm going to, to play a better game, I'm going to go out and buy a new set of clubs because it's going to make me play a better game. But the quote that I was given by my coach said, well, it's not the golf club that's swinging the ball. It's the person who is swinging the golf club that's hitting the ball. And that's the highly fine-tuned instrument, metaphorically speaking, that in your example there, it makes sense to me. And I just think that's so unique because I think that, especially with even dogs, dog training or some of the presenters who are handling dogs that have had issues in the past, behavioral issues, that it goes back to, they said they end up working a lot more with the pet parent or the owner, however they want to be referred to, make a lot of change.
And I think also that I mean, one of the people who's done a huge amount of work to popularize, to explain, what she calls, what many of us now call energy medicine. Donna Eden. Her book Energy Medicine is a great place for people to start to begin to realize, I mean, she has her, the three thumps, her morning energy routines, things like that. I mean, Donna Eden gives a lot of information to help people, work on their, on their own energy and, clearing energy blocks. I mean, it's really healthy stuff. It's fantastic, and I mean, these books are, widely available, and that is, I mean, she uses, of course, kinesiology in her work. She presented a lot. I think she does a masterclass with Mind Valley. So there's a lot of this around, and coming from that perspective, I mean, this is the future.
Yeah.
Question that people are getting more aware of their own energy circuits, and then they bring that in, they realize that has an effect with their their animals, their pets, and so on, and they start working on it, and then they get in, realize that their animals are functioning on the same kind of we're in resonance, and that and that, so that sort of conscious leap where we realize how much we're in resonance is where we are and where we're going. And all the deep connecting work, the connection work that people are now doing with their animals. I mean, this is in this kind of base. So
yeah, it's the right time. I've had a lot of presenters message me, or just that I've talked to, and they just said that they've been teaching or sharing this stuff for years.
Yeah.
But now the common feeling is that people are more receptive. I mean, the Animal Wellness Summit, those of you who are watching live and sharing with your friends and family and team members and colleagues and so on, the receptivity is a lot higher, and so it's really cool. So I'm grateful for you to jump on here and share a little bit more, and it's just pretty neat. Now I don't know if this is a question, just maybe a comment, Violet, if you're still on here. Which, by the way, I love your first name. My daughter's name, one of my daughter's names, Violet. But just saying, she adopted a Mustang who still has territorial and nipping territorial, who is still territorial and nipping. Don't touch me issues. So maybe before we bring in Petra, would you mind sharing a quick little tip for her, possibly?
Well, the example that came through in the video, I mean, when I was working with Coco, when I first met him, it was impossible to go anywhere near his stall with a broom. And that really encouraged me to start working with EFT, emotional freedom therapy, and tapping. And I showed that in the video where, where I'm holding his, what we call emotional stress release points above the eyes, and then connecting with the small intestine meridian. And obviously you have to be able to get close enough to be able to connect like that. From what I understood from that work, which took place over about 6 sessions with Coco, and clearly, I mean, he's a rescue pony, and clearly had issues with people with with sticks or batons, things like that. So there was a question of safety and of personal space. And so if you can reach that point where you're bringing a solid, a solid and heartfelt sense of safety, that is for me going to be the first place in which the horse, the Mustang is learning through this that they are in a safe place.
Right.
And that work with Coco was about safety. It was about him being safe, and also learning that if he didn't feel safe, he could walk away. And that was the other side of it. It was those two things: is that if I'm feeling challenged, I can walk away, and if I'm feeling safe, well, I mean, I'm feeling safe. And so obviously, there is the sort of physical connection that's necessary. Obviously, without seeing, without meeting the horse, it's difficult to say. But I mean, using the affirmations and presence, and being in a sense of unconditional openness to this horse is where I would start. And I would sit with the horse, and just take it one day after the other, and in that sort of sense of very, very, very deep opening. And I believe that that this Mustang will be sensitive to that.
No, that's great. Yeah, I just, again, didn't want to cut you off there, but I think that's great just because, again, is just taking the time to be mindful of the presence. So if you're still watching, you can leave a comment and how that resonates with you, but that to take to be mindful of your presence. And I know I've had somebody say, they're like, well, I was fine, I was relaxed, I was good. And then one of the presenters said, well, if you really were, you probably wouldn't still be having this issue with your horse, right? She's like, oh, okay, yeah. It wasn't anything negative or critical. It was just pointing out the things that are hard to see.
I think, I mean, in the work that I'm doing, I'm lucky that I have the time.
Right.
And that is, and so there isn't a pressure. There's not a pressure, to quote unquote get a result. We're not into results. What we're into is, me feeling safe. We're into the horse feeling safe, us feeling safe together. It's the whole thing. And anybody who spent any time at all with horses will know that there are periods where they are doing their thing, and this is not the time to approach. And that needs to be respected. Absolutely. Safety.
That's very good. She just commented again saying that she was rescued from a kill pen, so that would explain the territorial nipping. And probably gonna take some time to work on that, but
well,
really great.
There will, all that fear will be locked into the different meridians. One of the things that, I mean, one kinesiological approach would be to see which meridians it's locked into. And that's the kind of thing we can do. We can ask where that fear is stored, because it will be locked into the horse's body and into its energy circuits. And so by, working with it, we can ask that question, where is this? And we can use muscle testing. Again, obviously that demands a certain proximity, but when we've got to that point, I mean, the horse may be a little bit sort of want to sort of pull back, but I mean, at the same time, there's a lot that we can do there. And once we know, when we found out where that is stored, we can begin to release it. And it's very, very, very specific. And when the horse is ready, it'll go. That's what I believe. I mean, those are the things that I've seen.
Right. Well,
So
that's really good. So, I was just going to say, just so we have, I want to make sure bring Petra on here in just a minute or two. But you have more, like you said, there's some things that you're working on. If you tell us that in closing, you said you were going to work on something in some sort of like a case study or something. Do you want to mention that now?
What I'm doing at the moment, my next project really is to work with what we call primary reflexes. Now, in the human, these are reflexes that are lost within the first 18 months, 24 months after birth. So we have different, whole series, about a dozen different reflexes, which we have in utero, which are designed for various things, to help with the process of growth within the mother. These, however, are sometimes the body holds on to them. And that's why they're called primary reflexes. They're because they're the first reflexes we have, and then normally after birth we let go of them because they no longer correspond. So these, in terms of human kinesiology, I mean, we can muscle test for these different reflexes, and I mean, as an example, one reflex like the plantar reflex, you can see when people, for example, stand on the sides of their feet. I mean, this is actually has sort of prenatal origins. When people actually have difficulty standing flat and well posed on their feet. So, and this is something that you can just release, I mean, you can isolate it, you can find it through kinesiology, and then there are ways of doing corrections, doing balancing, so that reflex, basically then it just switches off. And so, one of the things that really struck me is that many horses are separated from their mothers in
Well, I think we lost Peter there for a second. Just hang on, I'm going to bring him back in here.
Okay. Yeah. So very briefly, yeah. So the primary reflexes then, I think, are relevant because many horses are separated from their mothers way too early. They're separated from their herd, also very often way too early. And so my intuition, and this is the work that I want to do, is to look at the primary reflexes with the herd that I'm working with, and work on balancing those things. I've already done preliminary testing with several members of the herd, and I'm aware that certain do in fact show up. These primary reflexes are showing up. So that's my project. I've got ways of testing this, and I'd love to report back in a year's time to the Animal Wellness Summit 2019 and be able to present that work, which will come in the form of a couple of case studies and an explanation of what these primary reflexes are and how we work with the animals.
I think that would be fabulous, and I know I look forward to that. So that'll be great. Consider that you're. What's that?
Thank you very much. That's fantastic.
Consider that your invitation to come back again next year.
Thank you. That is fantastic.
Good. So last thing,
really,
before Petra jumps on here, is your website now. I know that is it peterjeffskinesiology.com? Is that the website that you're using right now?
Yeah, it's a WordPress site that I'm using.
Okay. Because I did, peterjeffskinesiology.com/equine. So I'm just gonna put a link there because I have the sense that some people are gonna want to learn more,
right.
And or contact you because I know that if they have questions, and that's the nice part. The neat part, the big perks I think is for everybody who's joined in here live to get to know the presenters, you guys more, and be like, wow, like, okay, when I have a question, can reach out to you privately, or the VIPs and the platinum members love it because they can post a question in our group. So
absolutely. It's been lovely receiving comments and reflections on the page with the video.
oh, we keep losing Peter. Okay, one last time we'll bring him on here, and then we're going to bring in Petra. She's been chomping at the bit, no pun intended.
Great. And you know, and if anybody does wish to get in contact or talk about the kinesiology, or, you know, please leave me a comment in the, you know, in the comments box below my video, and I will get back to you with pleasure.
Yeah,
definitely. It's very exciting.
That's great. Well, thank you, my friend. Appreciate it. Great to see you. And
thank you.
Bring some more testosterone to the presenter lineup, because there's very few guys, including myself, on here. It's great. We love the ladies. Ladies are on there. They're awesome. I just think it's neat hearing from a guy too. Just not that it really matters, to be honest. It's just predominantly most of the attendees are women, and I know a lot of the women are like, well, I wish, you know, my husband or friend or boyfriend or friend, whatever in my life, would be more open to some of this stuff. And it's just cool because there's dudes like us out there that are holistically minded and energetically connected, and I just think it's great. So thank you so much for sharing. I'll let you go to bed, or maybe you'll be so excited you won't want to be able to sleep for a bit.
Petra. Yeah, I'm going to listen to Petra. So
okay, awesome. Well,
okay, thank you.
Bring on Petra here. We'll have all three of us on here for one couple seconds, which, by the way,
okay.
Welcome. You're on here. I don't know if you want to test your audio. We can see you now. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. So I want to say thank you to you too, because without you, Peter wouldn't be, more than likely, Peter wouldn't be here. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Excited.
Very good. Okay, Peter, I'm gonna move you out of here in 1 second. We'll see you later, and welcome, Petra. And somebody said they probably know who you are. Christina said, pretty sure Petra goes biteless.
Bitless.
Yeah. So I just thought, well, at least so this is the thing, you guys can't ask for your money back, because A, if you're doing it for free, there's no money in exchange anyways. But B, when I was training my personal training clients, and still this offer still stands at this day, and it's never happened ever, is that part of my money back guarantee is that I have to be able to deliver results with your transformation or in your body. But then the other one was, if I can't make you laugh or at least smile during at least once during the session, I have to give your money back. And I've successfully never had to do that. So yeah, but anyway, so welcome. Thank you for tuning in here. And I know that you are, as I said in the email and on the post, as a veteran presenter, being here for round 2 for the Animal Wellness Summit 2018. Again, just for those that are still watching live and are going to watch this after, just give us a brief summary in case they're like, well, who is Petra Christensen? Just give us a brief overview, and then let's get into a little bit more about what the great work is that you're doing.
Okay. So I'm originally from Germany, and I came to the US in 1995. So I've been here for a while. And my first horses have been in my life as long as I can think, at least figuratively. I had to really convince my parents to let me take riding lessons, because my pediatrician was of the opinion horses were no good for little kids. And so I didn't get to start until I was like 11 or 12, but I've had horses in my life ever since then. And so when I came here to the US, we actually managed the guest part of a working cattle ranch, and got to do a very purpose-driven horse work, and was then really guided to look more into how can we connect with horses. And in about 2006, my horses really revealed to me that they're here to teach us. I am a firm believer that everybody has the perfect horse. And we don't always see yet, or we don't want to see what horses are mirroring us. Because it's a journey, and sometimes it's a little bit hard to look in that mirror. I remember I wasn't very happy when I had to realize that, you know, I couldn't really say no, and I really had to had a lot of trouble setting healthy boundaries with my horses and in my personal life. So horsemanship in everyday life to me goes really, really hand in hand. And out of these experiences and being a horsewoman for over 30 years, and I've been teaching in Germany and here, and it was almost always a natural horsemanship approach that I used. But over the last few years, I've really looked at those 4 building blocks to create genuine connections, which is the natural horse habitat, which I'm talking about in this presentation for the Animal Wellness Summit. And it's really important to put ourselves in our horses' shoes and understand what their needs are and fulfill their needs so that they can be the partner that we're looking for. You know, something for the little Mustang, I would definitely look into how is the horse being kept? Is the horse being fed 24/7? It's so important for horses. They have, you know, such a complicated digestive system, and they're really designed to eat and graze all the time. Horses only sleep about 2 hours a day, and they need their herd. You know how Peter was saying. I love that whole idea of being part of the herd. That's very important to me. So, is the horse part of the herd? Does it have access to that family environment? So important for a Mustang that grows up with that and doesn't know anything until we rip them out of this environment, most of the time with a very you know, sad experience that they have to overcome consequently, and we have to help them overcome consequently. So how is the horse being kept? Do we have appropriate ways to keep the horse in a herd, to help them move 24/7, to help them eat 24/7, to keep their digestive system going, and also to keep their mental and emotional balance going, not just the physical, which then goes to healthy physiology, which is the second building block, and that's all about mental, emotional, and physical balance for horse and human, which we kind of set up with natural horse habitat. Right? That is kind of the precursor to that. And when we humans and our horses are mentally, emotionally, and physically balanced, we can actually engage in wholehearted communication. So I talked about that last year, how that all works. So if you guys want to go back to last year and review that, great, love that. And so then the last but not least, and this is a really important part, when we start to interact with our horses and we have conversations, and we're looking for their feedback, and we're looking for their feelings, and we're adjusting our actions accordingly. You know how Peter was talking about with the little Mustang, that it is really a matter of presenting ourselves in a way that our horse can feel safe and can develop trust. So it's all about how we show up to the table and how the horse will respond or react to us. And that's when we notice that a lot of the things that our horses do are in direct correlation to how we show up. What do we bring to the table? And how can we humans really reach our optimal potential so that we can become the partner that our horse is dreaming about, right? So it's a cycle, it's a circle that and it interconnects and interacts with each other and makes a whole. So that's what I'm all about, because I'm all about connections. So I love the fact that I was able to connect Peter to the Animal Wellness Summit, and all the tribe members of the Animal Wellness Summit to get to see his presentation. Peter is a guest contributor to my Genuine Connections library. And there's some amazing articles in there that just show, you know, that whole idea that everything connected, we're all one, and that energy needs to flow consistently in order for us to interact with each other, whether it's humans or horses, right?
Yeah. Well, no, that's great. Yes. And I just want to say thank you for that as well, because it just goes that some of our best presenters that have come to us, really, they've just been amazing. You guys are all phenomenal, but saying that it's just great because when you get in any business or anything, when we love a product or love a business, we get a word of mouth referral. So that's why it's great when you share the summit with a friend. But I'm using that as an example for Petra. I just want to say thank you for referring Peter, and Peter was very grateful and is very grateful. It's just awesome because it feels very much in alignment for me to be able to share this with people who are interested, who otherwise might never have heard this information, or maybe not for a fair piece or a fair amount of time. Now, your work. So last year, what your topic again last year was building genuine or creating genuine connections with your horse, right?
Yeah, and it came from the perspective of the third building block, wholehearted communication, and also a little bit of healthy physiology and fearless insight. So this year I chose the first building block, natural horse habitat.
Yeah, and that's cool. I remember going through it, your presentation, and I do most of my review before and not as much during, because during I've got my hands full, or the plate full, with just making sure everything goes off as smooth as possible. But I remember thinking how cool it was that you had the horses where, I forget what you call it, but like part of where they're grazing, or the pasture area where it kind of came in close to where you spend, so that they're going throughout the property, so that when you're doing your day-to-day things, chores or whatever you're doing on your property, that you have a higher chance of seeing them or getting close to them, instead of them being like way over there and you're way over here, and kind of like bringing them in. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it's again what Peter was saying, this being part of the herd. I think it's vital for us to be part of the herd, and not everybody has the opportunity to bring their horses home and set up a natural horse habitat at home. Some people have to board, but even when you board, you can integrate, there are 7 ingredients to the natural horse habitat. You can integrate several ingredients into how your horse is being kept at the boarding facility and still make a difference.
It's 10 hours.
Here, she is in a boarding situation, but she was able to bring her horse in a bigger pen. She was able to feed hay out of slow feed hay nets, and move them around in the area that the horse was being kept. And so just changes like this can already really help. We were able to help the horse gain weight and, keep her going more because she's had some hoof issues. So, but of course, our dream is to live with our horses and to incorporate them into our lifestyle. So my horses can come all the way up to my porch, and their trail system that weaves throughout the property is actually connected with my backyard. So I can see my horses from my windows here in the back of the house, and when I'm outside in the garden, I can see them when I'm on the porch. So I'm
pretty cool.
Today I'm part of the herd, and it's really important to have that feeling. That's what this little Mustang is clearly showing, is that he's concerned about his personal space, and the most important thing that I can say about that is that it will be crucial to honor his personal space by honoring your personal space. It's simply the horses giving feedback and sharing his feelings and honoring their personal space, and just being with them, like Peter was saying, can make a huge, huge difference. We humans are such direct line thinkers. We get a horse and we think we need to put the halter on the horse, and we need to be able to lead the horse, and we need to put a saddle on the horse in order to ride the horse. And we're forgetting that daily interactions, just being with our horse, how we approach the horse, how we show up, this whole idea of drinking half a pint of water, so that, the energy is flowing in our body, that we do not have any brace or any tension that we bring to the horse. when we do see brace and tension, that we help the horse to release it. Those are all ways that I can do on a daily basis throughout the day within minutes, because my horses are with me and so close to me.
Yep, I just, pardon me, muted myself again. I just think that's that's cool. And again, the basics. I mean, when we grew up on my farm, my parents still have the same farm, but the pasture that was the horses is now the apple. It's now actually part of the lawn, and it was the apple orchard, and then the horses were out there. And I remember them being really close, and they were just, yeah, they were part of it. And we had the goats and the pigs, and everybody was all kind of in their own little space, but out there. And, you know, I know for us personally, when we're planning as a family, we're actually a small town. We live on a farm right now, my grandma's old farmhouse, and there's a pasture out here. We could have it, but it's not the right timing for us in our family planning, so to speak, with having 3, soon to be 4 young kids in our family. And so I'm interested in learning more from you from that presentation for myself for years down the road, because we're looking at like 5 years where we can, you know, move out to the farm and have our horses, because the girls are already asking when they drive by. We live in like an Amish. There's a lot of Amish Mennonites in our community, so there's horse and buggies here. There's a lot of horses that are out to pasture, and they say like, oh, there's my horse, my horse. So every horse that they see is their horse. It's pretty cute.
Horses are amazing for kids. You know, they learn so many good life skills, just like we humans do, you know, when we're willing to look at that, you know, and really open our heart to that there's lots to be learned. There's a learning opportunity, how we interact with horses, and it all transfers to everyday life.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And that, your presentation, and that, of course, for the members that are in the paid version or a VIP or a platinum member, you can go back to 2017, and then you can see 2018 as well. So it's nice to have access to that at the touch of your fingertips. But those that are watching, Petra, who want to learn more, I did put up your website there. Let me pull it up again right here. So you do, because this is the thing, I know for Peter, I know that he said he's working on this, is that inevitably what happens after when you're being on the summit, a lot of questions come up and people like, wow, that Peter's really cool, or Peter's really cool, I want to learn more from them. So you have courses and some education that people can kind of take the next step, because really there's so much that's shared in the Animal Wellness Summit presentation, but then really that's like one piece of the puzzle, which when for those that want to dive in a little more, I feel like I know the answer to this, but I mean, there is more education and stuff and opportunities for people to learn on your website, right?
Yes, absolutely. So first of all, when you watch the presentation, I provide a link, learn more about nhh.com, and just hop on over there, and there is an email address where you can email me, and I have a PDF, an ebook. It's 28 pages that goes through all the ingredients of the natural horse habitat and gives you step-by-step information how to create your own and what the ingredients are, so that you can pick and choose when you're not yet able to create your own natural horse habitat, that you can at least take the ingredients and implement them now, so that your horse can have a better life and can be the partner that you're dreaming about. So this whole idea of natural horse habitat was born, believe it or not, in the 1980s when I was still in Germany. And I was actually participating with my horses in a trial from the Weihenstephan from the University of Munich. And it's a University for Life Science. And it was a study how local farmers with a small farm can incorporate horse sporting as an additional income. And in addition to that, the idea was to keep horses artgerecht, what we call in Germany artgerecht, which would be species appropriate. So right. Out of this experience, I created the system of natural horse habitat and the 7 ingredients, and all starts with the trail system, how you lay out a system of trails throughout the property so that your horses are encouraged to move and to spend their time all over the property, not just in one corner eating hay, you know, in one spot where they do not move. So then the play pastures, like you said, I have pastures that I also encourage people to use in a way that we can use them as a riding arena, or I call it a liberty pen or a playground. We have the habitat shelters. I don't know whether you can see that here, but that's what a habitat shelter looks like. It's really designed for the horse in mind. So I know we all love these beautiful barns with the cupolas and all the pretty colors and all the beautiful Dutch barn doors. But let me just plug in my computer here real quick. Those barns are really caves when you look at it from a horse's perspective and point of view. And that's why you will a lot of times see that people build, you know, a really nice run-in shed or a beautiful barn, and the horses stand out in the cold and in the rain and in the snow because they don't feel safe in the space that we've provided. So again, you know, learning our horses' needs and what they look like. So a habitat shelter is really made to provide shelter, but at the same time give horses that sense of openness and being able to watch their surroundings so they can feel safe while being protected from the elements. And I have a building plan, you know, it's really inexpensive. And that's one of my big things is it's inexpensive to keep a horse when you set up a natural horse habitat. Oh, there's my friend Eva. Eva,
I was just
plug for her, you know, photonic therapy, red light therapy, watch her presentations. They are amazing too. So thank you for checking in. So the habitat shelters, the natural feeding, it is really important for our horse to eat 24/7. Alfalfa is really not horse feed. It's more of an herb and a supplement. We want to feed grass hay all day long. We want to do manure management in a way where it's safe for us humans to handle manure, where it's safe for the horses, and where we take advantage of composting manure and spreading it so we can give back to environment and create that cycle. The next one is, or the last one actually, is ecological landscaping. And so to me, that's super important too, that we include our landscaping into the horse habitat. Like I said, horses can come up to the porch, they're part of my backyard, and using shrubbery and annuals and perennials and trees and bushes to really help create an ecologically sound system, because horses are not very good pasture animals. If you have horses and you let them be on the whole property all the time, unless you have hundreds of acres, depending on how many horses you have and what area you live in. But for example, where I live in, you would need 40 acres to support one horse without irrigation. So they will completely eradicate all the fauna and really create a desert wasteland. So that is also part of the idea to really think about our environment, how to incorporate horses and keep your property value up. So lots of ingredients in natural horse habitat.
Yeah, I was just going to say there's many factors that go into it. And I think mechanically, the majority of the time, it's really just like, well, here's the like little pasture, and then here's the barn, and this is what kind of works and looks nice for the farm, so to speak, or from the road appeal, so to speak. I've heard people say that before, but it's not. It just, and again, growing up on a farm and thinking of horses, just in my experiences with them, that definitely makes sense when it comes to them having the shelter, where they can still have some shelter from the wind and rain, but they can at least still feel like they're in the open and they're not like caged up, so to speak.
They can hang out. You see in my video, I did a lot of video outside where I incorporated my horses and I showed the setup on my farm so people get a feel of what that looks like, that the horses can gather as a herd. I have actually 2 habitat shelters on my property, so that everybody can have a space, and depending on the time of the year, you know, the sun comes in from different direction, and in wintertime it's obviously lower, in summertime it's higher. And I incorporate all of these findings into how I lay out the natural host habitat. So for people that go to the presentation and you ask me for that ebook, the Ultimate Planning Guide for the Natural Host Habitat, you see all of that, how you plan that. And then I have something in store with Barney in January. Do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, good.
And before, as I say, before we share that, do I have the right link up here?
PetraChristensen.com. It's
NHH?
no.
No.
So when you go to Petra Christensen,
that's the one that goes.
When you go to PetraChristensen.com, you learn about all the 4 building blocks, and one of them is the natural host habitat. It's easy to find, so that, you know, if you just take the NH8 and just do away with that, then you can find what you're looking for just by scrolling down, and you will see all the free resources on my website that I have. There you go. Perfect.
Perfect. Yeah. So that's good. So again, I just, because you mentioned that the NHH, I wasn't sure if that was the one that you talked about in your presentation. But yeah, so I'll keep the Petra Christensen, PetraChristensen.com website up there for you guys. You can click on it. It's also in the comments. And on a side note, just was going to say to let you know, we said thanks to you for Peter, and again, if it wasn't for Ava, she's, I think, probably recommended majority of the planners. Yeah, it's pretty awesome, and it's pretty neat just because I think that's what makes it so unique. That and as she said here, just once you know how, and I would agree, I think as you're explaining this, I'm like, yeah, that makes so much sense. But if I was to go out and think about that myself, I would look at it more like, well, this is what makes sense for the property, not taking into the big picture. I mean, I would to a degree, because I like to look at things more holistically, but as she said there, thanks to your knowledge, it becomes indeed easy and doable.
It's easy, totally doable. So I'm 5 foot. I've set up 110 pounds. I've set up my natural host habitat pretty much on my own, on my property. I eventually, once I set up, I had a temporary setup. I decided that, you know, that's what I wanted to have. And then I had somebody come in and do some more work, like setting posts in concrete and setting gates and stuff. But pretty much I started that all on my own. It's doable, it's physically doable, it's financially simple and easy. You can expand as you go. You know, I built up my habitat shelters for under $1,000. I'm going to say that again. Under $1,000 for a habitat shelter that gives your horse all you need, and it's not going to break your bank account. So Christina was here in October, and she was visiting here as part of my master class that I do, and seeing what it looks like, and it really is totally doable. It's financially affordable, and you know, I encouraged everybody. You were talking about going to the website, so the link that I provide in the presentation is learn more about nhh.com. And having said that, there was supposed to be a little landing page, and it was supposed to be easy for people to download that, but I had a family emergency. So what you will find there is my email. You email me personally. I get back to each and every one of you. I send you the guides. And when you go through the guides, please, 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 if you have any questions, any comments, anything that you'd like to know, you're welcome to email me at any given time. I mean, this is what I really want to give back to, and I want to encourage you to help your horse as naturally as possible. So I am here for you. Just go to learn more about nhh.com, and then email me, and I am happy to support you in your journey to create a natural horse habitat. Absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, I had that. I'll put that in the comments here. Put it up here. Learn more about nhh.com there. And yes, it is. You could just see Petra's email that you can contact her. Which, as you can see, she's pretty cool. It's not just me telling you. She's exemplified to you. She's pretty cool. And Christine, I want to pull this back up again for a second. She said that, so she was out there and at your place and was able to experience the goings on, and in your opinion, it's the way to go. Apart from anything else, it literally saves the pastures and makes for happier horses, which really, I mean, my brother actually he's on a farm as well and has a couple horses that are boarded there because the people they live in town, they can't, or they've chosen not to be able to do something like this. And then I don't know how much they pay for rent, but I'm pretty sure in 3 months they'd have that $1,000 paid for to build that horse habitat. But they've got to obviously have a little bit of space for it. You can't do that in your backyard in the city.
Yeah, not in the city, but you know what? I mean, my property is 2¼ acres, and I have around the house with a backyard and parking and circular driveway and all of that. I would say about 1½ acres. And you can do it with less space. So you do not need 35 acres to have a natural horse habitat. You can do it in a small area, and you can provide plenty of opportunity for your horses to live naturally. You know, it's way easier than people think to keep horses at home. And it's also a matter of making work easy and doing it in a way where you can keep your horses and you still you know, you're still able to do your normal daily routine. I know so many people that say, oh my God, I have a job, I could never keep my horses at home. But the way this is set up, it's very simple and it's very work way and friendly and super efficient, you know? So there are many, many parts to that. And I really hope that people will download the PDF and then come back to me, ask questions. I've gone into regular normal horse setups and helped to provide my knowledge, like Eva was saying, and recommendations on how to set up these systems, from 35-acre really fancy horse barn to very, very simple 1-acre properties, to even boarding facilities. How can I make it better for my horse to live in a boarding facility? All the way down to starting stuff from scratch. I've done it in Germany, I've done it in California, in a high-end neighborhood where we had to look at the HOA and what the neighbors are going to say, and all these things. And Florida, and it will work anywhere, whether you live, I live in the high desert. It works here, it works in Florida, it works in California, it works in Germany. I know Christina, she's addressed, a lot of problems in upstate New York with mud and not being able to turn the horses out on pasture, and then they're sitting in the 12x12 box. And with the natural horse habitat, we can solve these problems and make it in a way where our horses don't have to stand in the mud.
Yeah, I think it's great. It's been great for me personally, if I can be selfish for a minute and say this, that it's been learning. I think that the same feeling that other people will be having, whether they're they're boarding their horse and they want to bring them home, as Christina said, or they want to plan for the right time in their life when they want to do that with their horse, to be able to find a place. I was just thinking, even now, it would make it's more realistic to be able to do that. To think, okay, it's $1,000 for the habitat shelter, and then you just need a little bit of space for them and all the other stuff that goes into it. So I think it's cool.
It's basically fencing and the horse habitat shelters, And when I first came here on my property, flat as a stamp, there was nothing here. I started out with temporary electric fencing and kind of the layout that I wanted to have, and observing the weather and the climate on my property. And if somebody cannot, install the actual system right now, they can start with the creation and with the planning process and with the designing process. And you get a satisfaction of working towards your goal, while you can take your time, observe the weather, make sure if you have an HOA, or, you have some, the planning department from your city or your county, you need to know where your consequences have to be and all of that. You can do some research, you can get the planning guide, you can set yourself up for success, and you can work towards that, you know. It doesn't have to be, of course, we all want it tomorrow, you know. We humans are, you know, we want our satisfaction right away. But creating those steps and knowing how to get there, I mean, you can start tomorrow with the planning and really set yourself and your horse up for success.
Very cool. That's Christine just said, the coolest, super approachable and supportive. I can't say enough good things about Petra and what she teaches. So that's, and that wasn't, just so you know, she didn't slide a $20 bill across the internet there. I think that's a genuine comment. So
I love teaching. I love sharing. It's a subject that is super, I have so much passion for it because, you know, I want to go and help this Mustang right now because we can make a difference for him just by addressing those 4 building blocks and observing his feedback and honoring his feedback. So, yeah, Christina.
No, that's good. So last thing I was going to say, Violet, if you're still watching, contact Petra and
please watch me. You can also, Violet, you can send me a video of what your horse is doing, and I'm happy to follow up and give you some insight. And that could be also something that, you know, we have the VIP section on Facebook where we could maybe post some of those things in the VIP group so people can learn those videos and share. So if you're a VIP member, go on the VIP group and share your questions there, share your videos there, tag me on it. I'm happy to respond to it. Totally, absolutely.
That's awesome. So last thing, we saved the best news for last. So what you alluded to it earlier and then I cut you off. So about January. So why don't you tell everybody about what we're going to do in January?
So I'm generally teaching live. I do classes live, but I also do online teaching. And so when I heard that Barney is working on having little mini master class as part of the Animal Wellness Summit, depending on what level you choose, I was so excited and I wanted to be a part of it. So come January, we're going to have a mini master class of how to create your natural horse habitat, where I show you from scratch, you know, go on Google, download the overview from your property, the layout, and what to look for to design your natural horse habitat, where to put the trail system, where to put the play pastures, what to do when your property is flat, what to do when, you know, your property is on the hillside, what to do when you have a lot of trees, you know, what to do when you have no trees. I mean, we go through all the individual steps and also how you can start out just by using T-posts, electric fencing, fiberglass posts, and start very rudimentary and start out with a temporary setup. You can see how it works for your horses and then go more to more of a permanent thing. So we're talking about all of these first few steps to get you and your horse set up for success with a natural habitat system, and that will be in January.
Yes, very awesome. Thank you. I don't know, I'm going to use some Canadian sarcasm here, but I can't really tell if you're very passionate about your topic.
Yeah, I know. I'm very passionate. So
yeah, I admire it. I love it because when I was training, that's the one thing my clients would come in and I'd be training Petra and Peter would walk in like, hey, Peter, how's it going? And then I'd be right back to Petra again. And my clients would always say that they really love that. It was the passion. And I do. I love this. Feel grateful to be part of this and what we're doing in this work. I'm excited to learn from you and as well as everybody else being able to learn. And the master classes, basically, we were getting, what happened is that, you know, last year we did the Animal Wellness Summit and then we had the flash drives and the digital downloads. And then people like, well, we would like to get more because it's like, it's great to have the information, but then there's a lot of questions that come up. And that's why the group is so cool. Even though the VIP membership group has been relatively quiet, people don't necessarily, the VIPs are like, they ask questions, but not as often. We usually ask us in the support desk first, and then we'll post it in the group. But it's nice to have that outlet. And we were finding, Petra, that there was similar questions, things were coming up. There was very specific needs that were wanted to be addressed. And so now, if you're watching this as a VIP or a Platinum member, you get that included in your membership. And then if you're watching, you're like, wow, this is cool. I'm not sure if I'm ready to join as a VIP or a Platinum right now, but you're interested in like Petra's mini masterclass, it will be available for purchase for a very nominal amount. And then that's where we have worked on that to do that back end work for Petra so she can do what she does best, which is the teaching and the training, and then we can help to facilitate that. So we're really, really excited about that, and I'm glad that you stepped up. The first one's actually going to be in December. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's Brent Atwater that's going to be the first masterclass, and then we'll have a whole year lined up in 2019.
Cool. Yeah, it's really exciting. The Animal Wellness Summit goes so well with what I want to do to genuinely connect horses and humans with humans. And
yep.
I think these mini masterclasses are just another way to help people connect more with the subjects and get them more information so that they can help the animals even more than they're already doing right now. And like in Peter's presentation, every expert brings something to the table that I'm sure you haven't heard of yet. There's just so much learning opportunity, and to kind of spread it out over the year and have that knowledge year round and be really supportive as an animal, be really supported as an animal owner in your journey. I think that's the biggest thing that the Animal Wellness Summit can give you.
That's right. Yes. And that is exactly right. So thank you for participating and taking the time today. I appreciate it. It's been an hour and a half out of your day to be with us here today, and everybody else who's watching live. And Peter as well, who I can see over there, is still rocking out in the lobby. I think you can still hear us. So go, for those of you interested, go and talk to, Petra, just go to learn more about nhh.com. And then you can see there, you can email her, and then remind us again that guide, because I know this question is going to come up. Where do they get that guide again?
When you go to that website, learn more about nhh.com, you'll see my email there, and you just personally email me, and then I will send you out the ultimate planning guide for the natural horse habitat. And I will also send out the wholehearted communication guide that I offered last year. If you haven't gotten it yet, I can include that. And then if you have any personal questions regarding, those two subjects or your horses, then, feel welcome to just reply to that email that I'm sending you. There's also the opportunity to sign up for my mailing list. I want to make sure that I honor everybody's privacy. So I'll send that out to you. It's, like the Animal Wellness Summit, free of charge. I sent that out to you. And then if you want to be part of my list and you want to get more information on a regular basis, including, what's been happening with the Animal Wellness Summit throughout the year and how I'm participating, then you just reply back to me and I'll put you on the list. And then you get all the wonderful information about the 4 building blocks for the genuine connections.
That's perfect. Thank you. That answers my question. So then that way, then you can people can go to learn more about nhh.com and then get in contact with you, which is awesome, because we like that too, because we do get on a weekly basis get asked questions, and we do our best to connect the question with the who we think is the best presenter. And so I just want to say thank you. I want to wrap things up here today. Originally we were going to be on here for about an hour, but I like to go with the flow, and sometimes it's an hour and a half. So it's some great training, great education, learning more. And again, for those of you who are on live now still for the encore and you're a free member, my encouragement to you, this is going to be my big sales pitch, okay? Get ready, because I'm going to high pressure you here. And I'm obviously kidding, is that if you're on the fence, you can easily get off the fence by just making a decision. And you got to make the decision, decide whether you want to continue to just kind of pick away at the information for free and take what you get when you can get it, or for a very nominal amount, you can join us in VIP or Platinum. And if you're wondering what all those options are and what they look like, I will put a link down here for you, so you can go and take a look. There's a video that's on that page that I will post here in a second. that explains all of the 4 options. The first option is kind of irrelevant now because it was the premium all access digital pass. But then you have a chance to participate with us, and if not, then stay tuned and tuned in for the rest of the year, because then that way you can jump in for the monthly mini master classes that resonate with you or you're interested in. And then every week now that we've opened up the live weekly coaching calls, so similar format. In fact, Carolina Westland from, I always get this, Sweden or Switzerland?
I think she's
from
Sweden.
From Sweden, yes. She's going to be on the call this Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So she's going to be on. She's really cool. Her perspective on like training and behavioral management is just so unique. So
Loved her presentation last year.
yeah, it's really cool. All right, well, let's wrap it up here. And thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Peter and Petra, for being with us. And we'll see you later on the flip side on the next call. And enjoy the rest. If you're still on tuning in, enjoy the rest of this. Talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.